VOW Green Metals. I put together a slide here that highlights, this is the elevator pitch on VOW Green Metals, who we are. We are an industrial processing company that will provide products that are essential for industry decarbonization and the green transition. And this company will work towards the metallurgical industry to help that industry decarbonize. We're tapping into a large and growing market, and we are actually a product and a promoter of circular economy by using waste, biogenic waste, and biomass as the source for industry decarbonization, as a source to help industries become CO2 neutral and to reduce their emissions. We are fully funded. As we are now, and we have committed partners with us, and we also have buyers of our products when we are now moving forward with the startup of the first factory to be built in Norway. And we are supported by VOW ASA, a company that provides technology to VOW Green Metals, and also provides sort of long-term experience in developing and installing industry, solutions for larger scaled industry systems. Moving on to the status of VOW Green Metals today, we have been spinning off VOW Green Metals from VOW, and we will list the company on the Oslo Stock Exchange next week. By doing this, everyone that has today a share in VOW ASA will get a share in VOW Green Metals. But as part of the funding of VOW Green Metals, VOW ASA has injected 150 million Norwegian kroner into the business, and by that capital injection, VOW ASA is becoming a large shareholder in VOW Green Metals and taking a 30.5% shareholding in the business when we are floating the business on the stock exchange next week. We have boarded, I'm very proud of that, we're boarded sort of a management team in VOW Green Metals that I will sort of give more insight into, and also a board of directors that comes from several industry and a long-term industry experience that will be a huge asset to the development of VOW Green Metals going forward. And we are planning the first factory, the first production in Norway, and this will actually be the largest biocarbon production facility in Europe when this go live next year. And we now of course, there's a lot of formalities now with the demerger and with the listing, but we expect to list the company early next week on or about the 12th of July. And the ticker for VOW Green Metals will be VGM. For all shareholders in VOW ASA today, you will see we expect that you will see your shares in VOW Green Metals early next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, if everything is going according to the plan. Moving into, let's say, the key investment highlights for VOW Green Metals. It's a strong market demand for the products that VOW Green Metals will produce, and that is backed by policies, regulations, and fiscal stimulus to create a pull for industry decarbonization. And we have, in the past talked a lot about sort of the EU Green Deal, that the European economy will become CO2 neutral. And of course, the metallurgical industry is a large contributor for emissions in Europe and is a part of that plan. And we now see the metallurgical industry moving in this direction. And of course, this is the large market that VOW Green Metals is tapping into. VOW Green Metals is taking a unique position. We are first mover in an industry that, let's say, will have a huge replacement demand for coal, fossil-based coal and coke, where we are now producing biocarbon for them. And it's also an attractive transition for the metallurgical industry. It's a low-hanging fruit, because we're actually, with the products produced by VOW Green Metals, we're producing products that they can use in the existing infrastructures without any major investments to go green. And that's what we will deliver on shortly here. It's a strong business model, I would say. It's highly scalable. It's a flexible business model. Scalable in terms that we will build up capacity to meet the demand we see in this industry vertical. But also it's a flexible business model, because not only do we produce biocarbon towards as a reducing agent for the metallurgical or the metal process itself, we are also producing CO2 neutral gas and low carbon fuels that are of interest for other types of industries, and it's of course key in our, the establishment of the infrastructure that VOW Green Metals will have. Phase 1 at Follum in Norway, where we will be building the first and the largest biocarbon production in Europe, is fully funded by the capital injection from VOW ASA, the 150 million, and the 80 million of grants that we received from Enova earlier this spring. It is an attractive economics. It's an attractive business model. It means that we see that there's a demand for the products, and we see only, with producing 10,000 tons of biocarbon at Follum, this first stage factory will be profitable on that level. But we also show sort of the business model going forward, how profitable that will be for VOW Green Metals and the development of this industry that we're now doing. And there's a strong team here. We are boarding now an experienced management team in VOW Green Metals, and a board of directors that comes from different types of industries, but very relevant for the competences that VOW Green Metals now need in the stage we're moving into. Looking at what VOW Green Metals will do and the value proposition we will have to this market is basically converting waste and biomass into renewable products, into climate neutral products that the metallurgical industry would need to decarbonize their operations, and for them to meet their ambitious targets of net zero, until 2050. But they have intermediate targets now for 2025, 2030. So this is a way for them, with our products coming out of the VOW Green Metal factories, to help them meet this target. But of course, converting waste and biomass into offtakes such as the biocarbon for reducing agents in the metallurgical industry, but also potentials for other carbon products that we see it's needed in this industry and in other industries. And let's say the other products I talked about when I talked about the flexibility in the business models that VOW Green Metals will have. And the end users is of course the metallurgical industry, and there are also other industries that will be buyers of the products coming out from the VOW Green Metal factories. And this is very important. This company is a build, own, operate vehicle, and we have said it earlier. This is an accelerator for technology deployment. By having this type of vehicle, we will get faster technology out there in the market. speeding up the green transition of the industry, but it also will become an accelerator for top revenue line growth in VOW ASA. So we are creating a win-win here moving forward. And as I said, circular economy, we're a product of circular economy. There's a concept around circular economy by taking something today considered a waste and turning that into an opportunity for industry decarbonization. It's a fantastic business model that we now are going to deliver on. And biocarbon for industry decarbonization is a strong value proposition. Looking at the metallurgical industry alone, in a global picture, the metallurgical industry, by producing important metals for industry development, producing important metals for renewable energy, as an example, this business today, this industry emits 10% of the world's CO2 emissions. And in Norway, the emissions is between 7 and 10% of the emissions of CO2 in Norway. And now VOW Green Metals is already working with major players in the Norwegian metallurgical industry, and that accounts for up to 40% of the CO2 emissions. So we're really taking a position here moving forward. And just looking at it, using 1 ton of carbon in terms of coke or fossil coal emits up to 3.6 tons of CO2. So that's, you see the importance of finding replacements for the fossils, finding other ways to produce this type of carbon. And our concept is basically recycling carbon from carbon that is already in the CO2 cycle, using waste and using biomass and forestry residues. And I also mentioned that earlier. It's a low-hanging fruit. It's a low switching cost for the metallurgical industry. It means that from day one, already now, they can start using biocarbon in their green transition, making green metals. There, of course, are other ways, and there will be multiple pathways to help the metallurgical industry decarbonize, but biocarbon is for sure an important one and something that the industry can start with today. And of course, I mentioned the emissions from the industry and the emissions by using fossil coal and coke. It's 10% of the global emissions. You see the cost of emissions going forward, and we see here on this graph, you see the development of the CO2 allowance price in Europe, gone from around 10 euro a ton of CO2 back in 15, 16, and 17. And you see the latest growth on the cost. In this spring and summer, we're looking at 60 tons per ton of CO2 emitted. So this is what the industry sees. It's higher costs going forward, and this is also the instrument to move the high temperature industries, the metallurgical industries, in this direction with the increase on taxation. And of course, the industry itself, the metallurgical industry, is responding. And when VOW Green Metals, VOW ASA, and VOW Green Metals announced the plan for VOW Green Metals, announced the plan for the first production facility outside Oslo at Follum, Elkem came along, entered an LOI for the offtake of the biocarbon that we will produce at Follum in VOW Green Metals. And the former CEO of Elkem made an announcement that this was spot on in their plans to decarbonize. They see, and Elkem is actually one of the bigger consumer of fossil-based reducing agents in Norway. And they have an ambition to become 40% CO2 neutral within 2030. And they really welcomed our initiative, and they wanted the production capacity that we will provide to the market from next year. And then again, the customers of the metallurgical industry is an example here. Martin Lundstedt, the president and CEO of Volvo Group, he said that their ambitions in Volvo Group is to have zero emissions from their vehicles and from their machinery, but they're gonna go further than that. They want to the materials they're gonna use in their vehicles and machineries. They want that to be low emissions on them and net zero emissions on them. And he's actually a supporter, Martin Lundstedt is a supporter of the green transition of the metallurgical industry, and he wants to buy green metals. And there's a huge demand. Of course, we can talk about the global demand, but I would like to show this slide showing the European demand for the replacement of the fossil coal and coke they're using in the European metallurgical industry. Today, or in 2018, the number was around 37 million tons of coal and coke, and they expect with the growth of that industry that within the 2030 they will have a demand for 56 million tons as a reducing agents. So let's say if we would follow what Elkem as the biggest player in the Norwegian market, if we would benchmark that in the European market, you're looking at a replacement of around 22 million tons of this fossil-based reducing agent with biocarbon. So it's a huge market, as we are saying, that we are tapping into, and it all these metals produced, all these alloys, whether it's iron, steel, silicon, copper, manganese, all these needs carbon for reducing out the oxygen from the melting process, but also the needed additives of carbon into the process. So this is a good solution to help the industry move fast in the green direction. Looking at the Norwegian market, and that's the first and foremost focus for VOW Green Metals in the first early stage. Norway is consuming now nearly a million ton of fossil-based reducing agents. There's more than 7% of the emissions in Norway are from the utilization, the use of these fossil-based reducing agents. By 2030, Elkem wants to become 40% CO2 neutral, meaning that they want to replace 40% of their consumption of fossil. And we believe that Elkem sets a standard in the Norwegian market. And if we use that standard, we're looking at the market only in Norway for 400,000 tons of biocarbon in the coming years. And by 2050, this industry will become net zero. So that means that they need to replace all their today's consumption. And for VOW Green Metals, we are moving forward with the first factory at Follum. We have strategic partners in place. We have agreements with the forestry owner Viken Skog for the supply of forestry residues to this infrastructure. We have agreements in place with Lindum that will provide demolition wood. Looking at this from a circular economy point of view, it's a lot of available demolition wood from the construction sites in Norway that could be used to make green steel. VOW, as a technology provider, are now scaling up and ready to supply technology for the factory. And we have Elkem with a very important offtake LOI to take all the biocarbon to be produced. We have Vardar that will use the gas coming out from the plant. This is a CO2 neutral gas. So it means that the district heating system at Hønefoss in Norway will be a climate neutral energy, and that's a fantastic, let's say, add-on to this value proposition that VOW Green Metals are coming with. And of course, we will also be producing low carbon fuels that we know the petrochemical industry will be interested in. The support from VOW is important here. VOW comes with proven capabilities. VOW has delivered advanced technologies with their subsidiary Scanship on one side that has equipped over the years, delivered more than 300 advanced process systems to the cruise industry. More than 140 cruise ships out there in that industry is equipped with this type of process technology. ETIA, the French entity of VOW, has delivered similar type of thermal conversion technologies, the pyrolysis technologies to 40-something sites. So we're coming in with a lot of experience that will basically mitigate the technology risk on this side. But of course, what we're doing here, we're building a large capacity, but we have good partners in doing this in the coming months and years. So key details on the Follum projects. We are moving forward as if we have the final investment decisions. We have fully funded the first production of somewhere between 10,000 and 12,000 tons of biocarbon production. That will go live over the summer next year. We will start up production during the fall, and during 2023 we will expect to have full production at this site. And we are now in these days making contracts with several parties for this built up at Follum. And of course it's going to be very important the cooperation we will have with Elkem on this project. We will plan the production to meet the specification Elkem has for their reducing agents. And we show an attractive profitability on this project. With 10,000 tons, we're speaking of EBITDAs in a range between 20 and 30 million. But it also makes sense to move fast forward because this is a economy of scale. When we increase from 10,000 tons up to 50,000 tons, you see we're really driving also the EBITDA level, EBITDA volumes of this industry. From 20 to 30 million up to 120 to 170 million. So it makes sense for us to move forward. And of course, we will look at a stepwise expansion plan. Follum, first step. We have also communicated earlier to the market that we have expansion plans at Follum. The stage 2 we're working. We have identified several locations for expansions in Norway outside Follum. And we have a phase 3 that we're looking at also an international expansion of VOW Green Metals. But we will come back to this phase 2 and phase 3. Our first and foremost focus now is to get the phase 1, the Follum stage 1 up and running early during next year. But we will come back during the fall of this year with more insight to the further expansion plans, phase 2 and phase 3. And then I would like to round off with what I said in the introduction. We are now boarding a strong management team. Cecilie Jonassen will join VOW Green Metals in mid-August as the Chief Executive Officer. She comes from she has a broad experience in valorizing biomass, on large industrial scale, working with the type of forestry residues. She's been previously held a position as Director of Operations Support in Norske Skog. And she has a lot of experience in this, and of course a great momentum. I really look forward to be joined by Cecilie, and she will take over my role in VOW Green Metals. Lars is already on board, Lars Mårdalen, as a Chief Financial Officer. He's been instrumental now in these months to list the company. He comes from capital intensive markets. He has in the past floated companies on the Oslo Stock Exchange, and he's a good guy and a huge asset to the team. Thirdly, I would like to mention Per Karlsen, that is the technical advisor to the management team. Per Karlsen is the Vice President in VOW ASA. He's with the cooperation agreement that VOW ASA will have with VOW Green Metals. He will provide and be responsible for the technical part of VOW Green Metals. Per comes from many years working in SINTEF in charge of research within the metallurgical industry. He's been working very closely with the metallurgical industry in Norway. He's been working with 5 larger development projects together with Elkem. He has also a PhD from within energy transition, energy engineering. So he's a good asset to the management team, VOW Green Metals. Also, the board, Narve Reiten, who also shares the board of VOW ASA, he now will share the board of VOW Green Metals. I think that it secures the continuation here. It supports the industry development in VOW Green Metals. He's also been instrumental in building up the business plan for VOW Green Metals, also supported by Line Tønnesen, who will also be a board member. She's been instrumental in the financial modeling around VOW Green Metals. On top of that, we're bringing in people from the industry. Elise Must, that heads the strategy and sustainability in batteries within Norsk Hydro. Broad experience from Norsk Hydro. Kari Stine Tærum, she is now a senior engineer for R&D in Rexolar, the former Elkem, and she has actually 17 years of experience from the cellulose industries with Hønefoss Fabrikker in Norway. She knows how to, the type of challenges that VOW Green Metals will now have, and the stage that we will go into with the build-up of the factory. And Carl Hartmann, proud to announce that Carl Hartmann is now on the board. He comes from many years working with waste management in Norway. He knows that part of the industry. And of course, we know that a vital, important feedstock to the production of these biocarbon and renewable energy that we will use towards the offer towards the metallurgical industry will be based on waste streams and demolition wood. And I think Carl Hartmann will be bring valuable experience to VOW Green Metals from a board position. So just on the concluding remarks, VOW Green Metals now goes live. We will list the company next week. We're tapping into a large market. It's a huge market potential for the business. We will be uniquely positioned. We have a proven execution capabilities with the corporations we have now, not only with VOW, but also with Elkem and other parties at Follum. And there are real attractive economics behind, and that will be very interesting to deliver on going forward. So thank you so much.
Very interesting. From the audience that you are free to ask in the Facebook stream. If you like, you may ask questions in Norwegian, of course. We both understand Norwegian, but we've decided to speak English since we have an international audience here as well today. Henrik, let me start by asking, you Just a little while ago, you were representing Norway in the World Entrepreneur of the Year contest. And now you have fathered a new company, VOW Green Metals. What made you do this?
I would say that we in VOW, we are entrepreneurs. We like to build industry. And of course, we saw and we see opportunities in new industry verticals, and we want to deliver on those type of opportunities. We have technology, we have competence, and we also have the capital market with us. So I think it's and of course it's a sense of urgency, you know, for the green transition and to help industry decarbonize, and we want to deliver on that.
It's like you're sort of connecting the dots between different industries, right? Filling a gap, so to speak.
It's a missing link in some of these industry verticals, and that's what we saw in the metallurgical industry. We were encouraged by the industry itself, you know, that you need to come up with some relevant solution for us. You need to you know, the first production at Follum will be 10,000, 12,000 tons of biocarbon. In Norway, we expect a market demand for 400,000. You know, we need to have 40 of those to really take that market. So that was on one side, and we couldn't be sitting and waiting for others to take that position. We saw that we could do it. We had the technology, we had the competence, as I said, but also that we see that with not only the capital market, so to speak, we see a good industry and a good interest from the capital markets, but also, you know, the latest 5 weeks in VOW ASA, we have made available, you know, 32 million euros or 320 million Norwegian kroner of extended line of credits, because we are ticking off a lot of boxes for the EU taxonomy now. So capital is available to move fast forward, and we surely will do that.
But it is kind of interesting to see how what you talked about in the presentation as well, where you combined the industries and societies' needs to handle waste and bio-waste, and turn that into raw materials, products that, you know, other companies actually pay for, and also for, you know, industrial heat, district heating. So it's an interesting.
And there's not that many people or so that many organizations that can take that position. We saw that we could take that position because, for example, if you look at the metallurgical industry, they wouldn't necessarily own that type of assets or that type of production facilities. On the waste side, they were not aligned and didn't see that opportunity. So that's what we're doing here. You know, we're taking that position ourselves.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. A few words about next couple of days and weeks. You are listing the company early next week, you said. But you're not offering new shares to investors. Why did you sort of decide to list directly instead of doing a?
We saw that we have already now fully funded the first factory. It means that we and that, you know, with the first VOW ASA injected 150 million into VOW Green Metals, and we got the Enova funding on top of that, and that was sufficient now to kick this off. And that's why we're basically distributing this to all the shareholders of VOW ASA. And the fantastic thing here is that we have more than 8,000 shareholders in VOW ASA, and now we're listing a company. From day one, we will have more than 8,000 shareholders in VOW Green Metals.
And VOW will continue as a leading shareholder.
It will. It definitely. I think it was very important that VOW also took a leading role in this with the momentum VOW also has, and of course we had the cash to inject into VOW Green Metals, and we see this as a very good investment.
How do you sort of describe the role between the two companies going forward? You know, VOW on the one side and VOW Green Metals. How should we think about that?
You know, I talked about this accelerator. You know, we're creating this vehicle for a faster green transition towards the metallurgical industry, building factories fast, And on the other side, VOW ASA will deliver. We are cracking the code for VOW ASA because we get technology out there faster. So we will enable VOW ASA also to grow faster on the top revenue line. We have to remember the fact that VOW Green Metals is a build-own. It's a company that produces renewable energy, CO2 neutral, climate neutral energy, and advanced products as biocarbon. It could be biocarbon towards the metallurgical industry, and it could be others. But of course, this build own operate is their main product will be to help the metallurgical industry decarbonize. So it's a build own operate, while VOW ASA is the supplier of technology.
And we heard that in just a month or so, the new CEO of VOW Green Metals will come on board, and you will then go back to your current former main role as the CEO of VOW.
Cecilie will then take the lead on that business. I'm really looking forward. She's very ambitious. She comes with this type of experience, and I remember we have gone through a very extensive recruiting period. We had a lot of very good candidates at the table, but with the way Cecilie challenged us and the ideas she had, she was the perfect fit for this role.
But what will be your role then in VOW Green Metals going forward? I didn't see you on the list.
No, I will continue as the CEO of VOW ASA, and we have so many things that we're doing in VOW ASA. We will of course support VOW Green Metals. They will need a lot of support from VOW ASA going forward. But I'm working on we created this VOW Industries as this incubator. We're looking. We see that there are opportunities to replicate what we're doing now towards the metallurgical industry.
So there might be some new companies. Yeah, that's what you're
saying.
There
might be some new ideas and some new that will be rolled out as companies. Yes, and I think that it's a unique way to secure a very sustainable growth in VOW ASA. It will create shareholder values by these spin-offs. So we're not taking something from one, we're actually putting one and one that becomes more than two. Looking at it from a shareholder perspective, we're creating value by these spin-offs, and that is a fantastic way to do it, and we truly believe in this type of expansion.
Very interesting. I'd like to get back to one of the things that you mentioned in the presentation, which also is one of the questions we received before this session. It's about the different technologies. You touched upon it, different technologies to decarbonize industries. Some companies are talking about hydrogen as the solution that will help and solve everything. You have a different approach to this. How do you, are these competitors, you think?
No, imagine going back, the global metal industry is emits 10% of the CO2 emissions in the world. It has a major impact. We need several pathways towards net zero. Biocarbon will be an important pathway. It's something that the industry are doing today. Definitely. It's no replacement cost, as I said. We can move fast forward, but there will be other pathways. But I think the key here, what we're talking about here is in the melting processes, you need to reduce the oxygen from the melting processes. Then you can use biocarbon. You can use syngas or any kind of gas containing a lot of hydrogen, but you also need the carbon. So it's a combination. So it means that you've seen an announcement of partnership in the metallurgical industry with hydrogen, but those type of partnership will also need the biocarbon because these processes need the carbon. So it means that not only are VOW Green Metals relevant for the biocarbon track, it's also relevant for the other tracks together with hydrogen because of the combination of hydrogen and carbon that has to be there.
So in a way, would it be correct to think that producing metals requires both heat and also carbon, and you need in the future, green future, you need of course to have CO2 neutral energy production and CO2 neutral carbon.
Yeah.
in the process. And then that's why
and then
the
of course
biocarbon is important.
what the industry has done, the majority of the carbon that the industry is today using is fossil-based. You know, you're digging it out from the ground, and by doing that, you're increasing the concentration of carbon in the CO2 cycle, and that is the problem. What we're doing is that the industry, you know, the metallurgical industry and other industry needs carbon. It will continue needing carbon, but we can produce that carbon. We can recycle that carbon from the carbon that's already in the system, like forestry residues, like biogenic waste, etc. So it's an enabler for the, you know, to continue producing metals, because the world needs metals going forward. But we will make them green.
There were some questions coming in right now about the market size, and the market share that you expect to be able to capture. Can you elaborate on that?
Let's say the first part of our development plan is to take a major position, a leading position in the Norwegian market. I spoke about sort of the European market that is, you know, 40 times larger in terms of consumption of reducing agents compared to Norway. The Nordics, I have talked about that earlier, that's 4 to 5 times larger than the Norwegian market. So there are large markets out there. But if we're gonna take a leading position in Norway, we need to aim for something in excess of 200,000 tons. That's you know, we need fast to increase capacity on the production side from the 10 to 12,000 we're talking about at Follum up to the volumes, you know.
So 20 times what you're looking at in the first.
And that's we need to deliver on this through a few years here, you know.
Yeah, and then 200,000 tons of biocarbon. There's a total consumption today of 1 million around in
exactly in the
Norway.
Norwegian market. So, and if we said that if Elkem is the benchmark here, that the industry moves to 40% replacement in 2030, then you're talking about the market of a need for 400,000 tons of biocarbon in the coming years, and that means that VOW Green Metals will really take a position here, and this is, you know, by taking that position, whether that is going to be 35% or 50 or 65 or 70% market share, you know, we're gonna present our ambitious plan as we move forward. But now, first and foremost, we have our running shoes on, and we're going to deliver sort of a large scale plant and Europe's largest biocarbon production at Follum in the coming months, you know. So
how far have you come in sort of preparations for that? Have you started building the construction activities?
What we are planning for it. We expect now that VOW Green Metals will place the order for all the process equipment now over the summer, and that will be towards VOW ASA, demonstrating that accelerator I'm talking about, the growth both within the both companies. But of course, the construction of the building at Follum, we have the contracts for the machine installation and the construction work. Those things will be sort of firmed in the coming months.
I'm sure you will update the market as these contracts are being awarded.
We will definitely do that. But we said it earlier. We will start production at Follum during the fall of next year, and that means that our running shoes are on.
There's another question coming in. I think a very good question about the complexity of scaling up, which seems to be an important part of the whole idea here. You mentioned it several times in the presentation as well. You know, how flexible is the solution that you're planning at Follum, and you know, how difficult do you think it will be to actually scale up from 10 to 40,000 or even 200,000?
Let's say we want to create a very scalable model. I mean, that of course what we're doing now for the first stage, we're building multiple lines to produce these 10 to 12,000 tons. It's 6 lines with altogether 12 reactors. Of course, a lot of upstream systems and downstream and valorization of gas, etc. But of course, we are also working with increased capacity per line, and that will be important. We are able to increase capacity to a certain size, a decent size at Follum. We said earlier that 10,000 tons. Perhaps we can double the production capacity over the next few years at Follum. whether we will do that with the existing reactors designs or we will increase. But of course, you know, we are working with big industry. We need to scale up for big industry. Like we have Oslo Metal at the table, also the world's biggest steel producer. They need capacity, and that means that we can deliver multiple reactors. But of course, we're going to make the reactors with higher capacities going forward.
I think this is a good time then to ask the last question that we've actually received, and that is, when should we and how soon should we expect to hear more about the next phases? I know people are very, you know, keen to learn about, well, this is Follum, next Follum, and then how soon do you think?
As I said, we outlined sort of a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We are working with that expansion plan today. We are looking at several sites in Norway, but we will come back with a more clear. But let's say what we're not doing is just looking isolated at the Follum. We are already working on that, and of course, the discussions I have had with Cecilie also after she was appointed. We looked at the expansion plan, and she also brought with her experience from her industry, looking at several new ideas of how we could expand in some of the other sites. Or even faster. So we will come back to that. We will go more visibility, you know, provide more visibility. Now we have plenty to talk about with the Follum site and the new management boarding and a strong a board of directors that will support this process.
Thank you so much, Henrik. This has been very interesting, and thank you so much to the audience for listening in. I hope you found it as interesting as I did. You might have some questions still, and those can be asked to the company. There are email address available on the website. The address is vowgreenmetals.com. And by that, we round off. You will probably, most certainly, hear more from Henrik and Cecilie in just a few weeks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jan, for helping me.